What happened at your work which caused multiple people to all quit at once? For more infotainment, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates. Thanks for watching. The boss went off on a tirade on me for something that wasn't my fault, and I got him to scream, "People like you are expendable pieces in this company and I can replace you tomorrow if I wanted to." 80% of the engineers quit the next day. Simply didn't show up. Including me. From what I know, the entire project folded because my now ex-boss couldn't find people to replace us because no one wanted to do the kind of work he was looking for at the salary he was paying. Hehe. That backfired, smiley face. There was one guy who was going to be fired for coming in late constantly. However, many of the potential replacements his company interviewed wanted a ridiculously high salary. Turns out, that one guy lowballed himself on his salary. All of a sudden, coming in 15 minutes late each day became quite the bargain. Tattoo shop owner, who lived in another state, hired some to come revamp the shop. I had been managing for 3 years at this point and he just expected me to teach him how to do my job so he could replace me. That guy had no clue how to run a shop. Plus the owner had been embezzling money for her coke habit and had blamed the longest standing artist at the shop for lost revenue. Accused him of stealing. I did the books. No one was stealing. She was nuts. Anyway, all the artists and I mutinied and left at the same time. Them over good. With that idiot at the helm, the shop didn't last a year after we all left. Many years ago in high school I worked at a movie theater. The place was pretty poorly run from the moment I started there. We never got paid on time and management was basically a bunch of lazy jacks who sat in the office talking all day and never actually did any managing. It would have been hard for things to have gotten any worse, but after a couple of months they brought in new management who seemed to want to make it their personal mission to run the theater as poorly as possible. They first decided to implement a new policy requiring all projectionists to wear ties, despite the fact that projectionists are never seen by the public, not to mention that tiny little detail that the projectionists worked around giant, rapidly spinning objects that a tie could get caught in. Management refused to reconsider the policy and every single projectionist quit as a result. They then decided that the door people, of which I was one, who were always scheduled 7 days a week, would now only be scheduled on the weekends, and refused to reassign any of us to concessions on the weekdays so we wouldn't lose hours. As a result, almost every single door person quit, including me. After that they started imposing impossible cleanliness standards on concessions. Things like requiring them to scrape popcorn kernels out of the cracks in the trim behind the popcorn machines. Concessions was there until 5 a.m. every night trying to meet their standards. Most of the concession people quit as a result. By my count, the theater went from a staff of about 50 to a staff of about 12 in 3 weeks. I swung by about a month after I quit and found out that entire management staff had been fired and replaced yet again by an entirely new one. Ones who actually seemed to be running the theater properly. My best guess is that the previous management had been told to whip the theater into shape and they were idiots who had no idea how to effectively do that. I used to work at a grocery store. We had a manager who was hired to run the store but not be the franchisee, and when his numbers were satisfactory enough, they would let him franchise it. So far toward a year later and this guy was doing everything he could, making the store run and look wonderful and all the staff liked one another. Out of nowhere he is told they are putting in a franchisee bid and tell him that if he wants it, he can have it. He bids, but so does one of the district manager's sons. He gets it. Original manager is of course pissed but accepts to stay as the grocery manager if he keeps pay rate. Fast forward and the new franchisee gets fired for not following regulations. They do the franchisee bid a second time and tell original manager the same thing, he can have it if he wants it. They give the store to another person a second time. I felt bad for the guy because all of his hard work and how well he treated me. Store starts going downhill, causing a lot of change and a lot of pissed off people. I was the first one to walk out as all of ours were cut. The new franchisee never spoke to anyone but would bitch if we didn't do things her way. I find out 14 more people quit within a month. When I was 16, I worked in the concession stand at a minor league baseball stadium. Minimum wage at the time was $5.15/HR, this job paid $8, and it was always in the evenings, so it was perfect work for a high school student. The only bad thing was our management was terrible. The main manager would throw toddler tantrums about once a shift over stupid, like not ordering enough of a specific beer, she did the ordering, or running out of pre-cut lemons for tea. One night the stadium was running a promotion and it was incredibly busy, easily 2-3x the normal volume of customers. We were all working our off handling multiple roles each with absolutely no downtime. Although we all cleaned as we worked, nobody had a chance to do thorough cleaning for the whole shift because of the never-ending horde of hungry baseball fans. The manager showed up 3 to 4 hours late per usual and throws the biggest tantrum ever over the unswept floor. Finally, she announces, "Listen up, you lazy. Minimal work gets minimal pay. Everybody is being paid minimum wage tonight because you slobs won't clean up anything." Both of our bartenders and the bar back quit on the spot, which caused a chain reaction. We all took off our aprons and hats to leave. She blocked the exit and was red in the face from screaming, so one of the cooks climbed out of one of the big serving windows where we served customers, so I did the same and most of the staff followed. Bear in mind that this all happened in front of like 200 plus customers. Of course, my final paycheck got lost, so I had to file a wage theft complaint with the Texas Workforce Commission. Oh boy! I worked at Buffalo Wild Wings for a few years as a line cook. 2 different stores, same pay. It was the type of work where you ask for a raise and they scoff and say, "Yeah, me too." Anyways, I had been pretty dead set on quitting sooner or later. Our kitchen was very small. Most people ended up closing 4 to 5 days a week with doubles on the weekends, while still attending school full-time as it was a college town. On Super Bowl Sunday, a useless coworker who ducked out in the bathroom most the shift finally stops showing, and in response the managerial staff delegated closing to my pal Jay. Dude was a delight to be around, hands down the best coworker ever. Jay had told them that due to being a full-time student, he no longer wanted to be first and last out, 4 p.m. to 12 a.m., 1 a.m. on the weekends. They basically told him to go himself, and that they don't have any more shifts for him. Immediately, me and one other cook walked to the office and quit on the spot. Buffalo Wild Wings lost 4 cooks on Super Bowl Sunday, leaving them with 7 full-time students on the schedule. It was a managerial show. I had a similar situation at Grease Monkey in high school. They kept scheduling me for 3 close. When I applied, I made it abundantly clear that I got out of school at 3, and would get there at 3:10. About week 2, the manager pulls me into the office and says, "You have been late every day." When I told him I have school, he said, "You need to decide what's important." I laughed, as I thought he was kidding. He wasn't. I told him he could let me go if it wasn't going to work, but he begrudgingly let me stay on. He got fired for making jokes about a customer, while she was in earshot. The new manager hated me from day one, since I got special treatment because I'm in school. I asked for a day off to go to Six Flags, about 2 weeks previous. The day comes and he calls me at about 9 and says, "Coworker, called in sick. Need you here now." I told him I was on my way to Denver with a group and that I asked for the day off. He huffed and yelled, "Grow the up. Get here, or you can come get your last check." I said I'll be there in an hour. And went to Six Flags. Picked up my last check a couple weeks later and was accused of stealing a coat. It's always been so strange to me, managers who don't care to work around someone who's in school. I've had a couple. If it's gotta come down to my education to keep myself from having to work at a grocery store forever, and the grocery store where I get paid minimum, they seem to think they'll rank supreme. You hate to see it. My last bosses hired school kids for busy times, so some of them might go a few weeks between shifts. School holidays were our really busy time, and then the boss would get annoyed when kids wanted time off then because the kid would going on a holiday with her family. They were all girls. I suggested she stop hiring kids from the nice private schools and start hiring kids from poorer families that don't go overseas or to the holiday house in summer.